We're going live, y'all. That's up yourself. That's ready for the ride. Going live, so go ahead and like and share the video, and we will be with you all very shortly, in about 30 seconds.
From 13 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
You're listening to Spectrum, the Tuesday night edition of the Jazz Forum.
The frequency of 89.3 megahertz, as authorized by the Federal Communications Commission. Opinions expressed on WRSG do not necessarily represent the opinions of Radio Free Georgia Broadcasting Inc., its staff, or volunteers. This program contains language and/or information which may be false. Portions of this program are pre-recorded. Discretion is advised.
I would just start over as it play. Now you can see it.
Thank you.
You are listening to WRFG Atlanta. WRFG provides a voice for those who have been traditionally denied open access to broadcast media through the involvement of a broad base of community elements here to that access. In the utilization of
we all emerge. We pour to that creative spirit by whatever name we know it, whatever name you hold in your heart, your mind, whatever name your ancestors gave, whatever name you learned as a child, whatever name you believe it to be, whatever name you believe it to be in spirit or in science. We pour to the first human beings who came into existence on this planet, the first human beings who raised the first structures, who cooked the first meals, who taught the first children, who had the first children, the first Africans, the first people, who stood upright, who walked, who figured out how to stay on this planet, who figured out how to pass that knowledge on to their children and their children's children, the mothers and fathers of civilization. We pour the next libation to their grandchildren, their children's children, those who raised the great early civilizations of Kemet and Kush and Monomotapa, the great medieval civilizations of Ghana and Mali and Songhai and Kanem-Bornu. We pour to those who raised the great civilizations of the Igbo people and the Hausa people and the Kikongo people and the Mabara people, the great Mande civilizations, the great Kikongo, the great civilizations of Southern Africa, the Bantu people, the great civilizations of Southeast Africa, the Dinka, the Shilla, the Noor. We pour to those millions who raised the foundation from which the world would learn what it meant to be human in the world, We pour to their children who were upon the arrival on the shores of people they had never seen before, found themselves captured and marched overland, found themselves perishing by the millions before they were held on the holding cells and the open air pens on the coast of West, Central, Southern, and East Africa. We pour to the ancestors who did not know as they were stripped of all clothing and sent denuded into boats, packed like animals and strewn their bones across the floor of the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. We pour to them who in the last moment on Africa grabbed the sand and grabbed the dirt and put it in their mouth and understood that the only thing they might have to preserve their place in that continent was their memory of that place and their ability to pass it on to their children. We pour to them. Ashe. We pour to those Africans and their children who finding themselves cast adrift in Santiago, Cuba, who found themselves cast adrift in Porto, Spain, Trinidad, and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, who found themselves cast adrift in New Orleans and Charleston and Mobile, who found themselves cast adrift in Salvador, Bahia, who found themselves cast adrift in Barbados and the archipelago that formed the wayward and the windward coast. We found them in these places learning Portuguese and Spanish and French, whose often first words was, "Oh my God, oh Madre de Dios," who found themselves praying to survive and pass on to their children the memories. We pour to those ancestors who are represented in the thousands buried in all the square miles of where we stand, and who sit here buried before us in 400 caskets forged of wood from West Africa with Adinkra symbols. Each one of them, each woman, man, and child, symbolic of millions. The children of those who could not be killed. We pour Ashe. We pour to their children who somehow survived the hells of enslavement and fought for emancipation in the Caribbean, the French, British, Dutch Caribbean, who fought for emancipation in South America, who fought for emancipation in Central America, who fought the struggles we refer to as the Civil War in the United States, who came out of that, marched out of enslavement through Reconstruction, and found themselves making great migrations, eventually ending up in places like New York. Their children's children, who making a way for themselves, became our great-great-grandparents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our parents. Those who, when the first bones were discovered in this space, held their hands and said, "Stop, no more." We are here to speak for those who can no longer speak with their mouth. We pour for those ancestors, some of whom came to Howard University in 2004 and followed these caskets all the way back to New York. We pray to the great ancestors, the ones whose names we know and the ones whose names we don't. And at this moment, as we pour this libation, I would ask anyone who feels comfortable to say the name of someone in your bloodline who's no longer physically here, but who you know made it possible for you to be here. Go ahead, let's hear the names. Haywood Carr, Porter Griffin, Thomas Jr., Zeppelin Weber. We pour to the names that we hold collectively. Ganga Zumba in Brazil. Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe in Haiti. We pour to the great Avengers, Nanny of the Maroons of Jamaica. We pour to the great ancestors, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass. Say the names that you study. Who are the names of the ancestors that you have come to hold in your heart and your mind as you hope that you can do what they did for us, for your children and children's children? Let's say some of those famous names. Malcolm X, John Henry Clark, John Jackson, Jacob Brothers. And finally, two final libations. We pour to those who make it possible for us to do what we do. We pour to these rangers who stand guardian over this sacred space. We pour to these Africans and these folks who have come from Howard University, the staff, the faculty, the administrators who brought us here today to bear witness. This is not a libation, but an affirmation, because their hearts still beat, their tongues still speak, their minds still think, and their minds still wish the best for us. We pour for all of those people who surrounded us on this journey today and made it possible for us to be here. We pour this affirmation of thanks, Ashe. And finally, we pour to your children's children's children. They stand on this page.
Tuned into the Ancestral Rock, your station of progressive information and handpicked quality music. And thank you for your patience through some technical issues we're dealing with. We're live on 89.3 on the FM dial, WRFG.org. I want to greet those of y'all joining us on the social media platforms as well. It's family time, you know? So we got to have some theme music. Check it out. We got a very special guest with us in the wings.
That's a blasphemy.
But we're not all the sons of God.
Well, it depends on what you mean by God.
Depends on who's doing it.
I've claimed him as my father. And I'll give him a great, great value between now and the time, until it's over. Because God is our responsibility.
Well, I agree with that.
No.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, they think that we are God's responsibility.
No.
But it's one of him and what, 30 million of us.
That's right. So, and God's only hope is us.
It's true.
No. If we don't make it, he ain't going to make it either.
Yeah, now people are funny about sex, which I never understood.
Well, they're terrified of it. Same way people are. It's not about sex either. It's not about sex. Sex is not really the problem. Love is the problem. When you're a kid, when you're a 16-year-old boy, 15-year-old boy, what does he want really? He wants release.
15-year-old girl.
Yes, and there's nothing yet at that moment yet to do really with love, because love is something which comes much later, really. A kid loves you in a certain way because he needs you. Mm-hmm. But later on, when you're a man or a woman, it has to be much more reciprocal. You love somebody because you need each other. Right. But one's not capable of this idea, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, when everything is sexual and everything is being discovered, Mm-hmm. That's why so many of our kids turn into junkies, which we won't go into at the moment.
Hey, but let's come back.
We'll come back to it, But the great question is not that. The great question is You see, if it seems to me that the black male situation of the black male is in microcosm, the situation of the Christian world. The price of being a black man in America. God bless you.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
it's the weather.
The price you had to pay, the price you're expected to pay, and which you have to outwit, is your sex. No, a black man is forbidden by definition, since he's black, to assume the roles, the burdens, the duties, and the joys of being a man. In the same way that my child produced in your body did not belong to me, but to the master. He could be sold at any moment.
Okay.
You know what I
I
mean?
can follow that.
And this erodes a man's sexuality. When you erode a man's sexuality, you destroy his possibility to love anybody. You know, though sex and love are not the same thing, if the man's sexuality is gone, then his possibility, his hope of loving is also gone. You know,
He has no way to express. He has limited ways to express.
He has absolutely no floor on which to dance, no room in which to move, no way to get from one day to the next. Because to make love to you is not the same thing as taking you. You know, and it's a journey which most people have got to make with each other.
But why do black men? Why do we allow this to happen?
Look, when I begin to talk about, the situation of black men, I mean, I'm nearly 50, so that I've got to avoid sounding, in any way defensive, because no, I don't mean that I think you're attacking me, but you asked me a question which I'm trying to answer as honestly as I can. I have to look back over my own life, and you save yourself if you have any sense at all, and if you're lucky enough. If you lose your center, and let's say the center is your sex, if you lose that, if you allow that to be destroyed, then everything else is gone. And you have to figure out a way of saving it from the landlord. Because after all, I had to watch my father and what my father had to endure to raise 9 children on $27.50 a week when he was working. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't know what the man was going through at all. I didn't know why he was always in a rage. I didn't know why he was impossible to live with. But I had not had to go through yet his working day. And he couldn't quit his job because he had the kids to feed. He couldn't say, as our kids can, I don't like white people. He couldn't say anything. He lived his whole life in silence, except in the church. And he couldn't explain. How can you explain to a 5-year-old kid, my boss, called me a nigger and I quit, and the kid's belly's empty, and you see it, and you got to raise the kid. You've got to raise the kid, and your manhood is being slowly destroyed hour by hour, day by day. Your woman's watching it. You're watching her watch it, and the love that you have for each other is being to be destroyed hour by hour and day by day. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. But there it goes, because the pressures under which you live are inhuman. My father finally went mad. And I understood when I became a man how that could happen. It wasn't that he didn't love us. He loved us. It wasn't that he didn't love his wife, our mother. He loved her. But he couldn't take it. Day after day and hour after hour, being treated like a nigger on that job and in those streets and on those subways. And then coming home to his children who didn't understand him at all, who were moving further and further away from him because they were afraid of him. And also, which is even worse, afraid of the situation, the condition, which he represented. He was, after all, for a kid, you begin to see when you're called a nigger, you look at your father because you think your father can rule the world. Every kid thinks that, and your father cannot do anything about it. And then you begin to despise your father and you realize, oh, that's what a nigger is. And it's not your father's fault. And it's not your fault. It's the fault of the power, people who hold the power, because they have deliberately trained your father to be a slave. And they deliberately calculated that if he is a slave, you will be a slave. You will also accept it. And it will go on forever, and slavery will last 1,000 years, which slaveholders said and believed. And now the bill is in. And they want from me or from you sympathy and understanding. I understand it all too well. And I have all the sympathy in the world for that spiritual disaster. But I have no pity. The bill is in. We paid it. Now it's your turn.
It's like a funny situation to be in, because like we were poor, but maybe unfortunately for somebody like me, not poor enough to relate to it. And that, you know, we had enough to eat it like that, things like that. So that my relationship to that whole syndrome, which remains true, I'm 28 to this day, is that I really don't understand it. I don't understand how on one hand, you say you're talking about like a black man, that he can be nothing in the streets and so fearful in his home, that he can be brutalized by some white person somewhere, and then come home and treat, me, my mother, the same way that he was being treated, which perpetuates. I mean, you take somebody like me, I'm not married, right?
Yes, but Nikki,
I couldn't play my mother.
Yes, I know.
You know what I mean? I just couldn't deal with it. I said, no, this won't work.
But Nikki, it's also true that since your mother played that role, you haven't got to.
I couldn't.
But you haven't got to. That's the point. Because she did.
But her mother did.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, but that's how we got here. What I really am trying to say is I don't want us to underestimate the price paid for us.
I have a great deal of respect for those people, for my parents, for people that I don't know, for the whole, everybody who's shuffled. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a phenomenon to me how you could be mistreated and then come home and mistreat someone the same way.
First of all, Nikki, you say mistreated, or I say mistreated. No. But in the mind of the person who is doing it, he's not mistreating you.
No, I'm not dealing with that. Well, I'm not going to even, let's not for a minute. Let's say in the mind of, your father, who is just an example, or the mind of my father, you know what I mean? He is being mistreated. I'm not going to deal with the cracker that's mistreating him. I'm going to deal with him. He knows that he is not being treated with the respect due him as a person, as a black man. Okay. In order to get that together, when he comes into that house, he begins to brutalize my mother, for example. You see what I mean? Which becomes like a phenomenon to me, because I don't like white people and I'm afraid of black men, right? If you could follow what I'm saying without anybody writing a letter and saying sister, you know what I mean?
But you can.
Okay, so what do you do?
Listen, you have to,
it's a cycle.
89.3 on the FM dial. We could play that forever. But we got special guests in the studio we're gonna continue this conversation. I say in the studio, she's on the air with us, joining us from somewhere in the world. I know her as a community healer, first and foremost, and we don't use either one of those words lightly. Healer is not just somebody who, says nice words on Facebook or whatever, but does the work. And she's been doing the work even towards this conversation that we're just hearing in the background between James Baldwin and Mama Nikki Giovanni, who just made her transition. For those of y'all who've been listening to the show for a while, we've been on this topic and attempting to unpack where this chasm that is now on 10,000, in terms of being promoted in the mass media all around between African women and men really come from. And when Mama Nikki Giovanni transitioned, I remember this clip that we've been listening to that was circulating through the social media a few years ago. And I had to rewind it, because thus far we've been dealing with it from the political standpoint in terms of what arose. It seems like there's so many things in this society that show up that naturally or automatically expose the vulnerability that has, in my opinion, been genetically engineered between our women and our men. And we want to go to the root of it. So we're having conversations with sisters and brothers who are active in their healing work, because we know that healing is a process. And part of the process of healing is following the instructions of Amilcar Cabral. Claim no easy victories, hide nothing from the masses of the people, tell no lies, expose lies wherever they are told, you know. So on the phone line with us, we have our beloved mother, Jaguar, Catherine Adoni, otherwise known as Mother Jaguar. And as I've said before, we know her as someone who is on the front lines. Even if you don't see her, this is what I know for a fact, on the front lines, dealing with the healing of our ancestral wounds, which means the rectifying of our affairs, you know, and dealing with our present situation so that we can become more whole. We had her on the phone line. I think she's gonna come back up in a minute. But in the meantime, let's hear some more from this conversation. Very, of course, popular. I don't know how popular it is. Again, it became something that was popular on social media a couple years ago, but in many ways, very, I hate to use the word iconic, you know, because it's just so overused, but definitely, these are two people who are literary giants, two people who have done so much to further the expression of our people. And expression is a huge part of our healing. If we can't speak with our own voice, then what are we doing? So we have her back on the phone, on the line with us, Mother Jaguar.
Oh, so sorry about that. The
All is well.
cut out. How's it going?
Giving
Big
thanks. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm giving thanks for and big blessings and transcendence to our beautiful elder, now ancestor, Giovanni, Nikki Giovanni. And I'm grateful that we're actually heading this topic because that was one of the beautiful interviews that I seen between her and Mr. Baldwin, where the way that she spoke about love was so different, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to be on air talking about this today. It's a great topic to be talking about.
Yeah, you know, for like I don't know if you heard that part when he was in and out, but you know, one for me as a radio host, as a journalist, someone that has this voice and this platform, it became apparent to me again. It's not something that's new. You and I have had this conversation behind closed doors several times, but when the the presidential campaign of Kamala Harris um, became something that was clear that was happening. All of a sudden, you're seeing this sore that was never healed getting aggravated again in so many different ways. And so we started talking about that from a perspective of just dealing with, from the angle of politics, how we navigate politics in America. But what ultimately it says to me is that, as I said earlier, if something is not healed, then pretty much anything in the world. Let me see. I got my sister back here. Pretty much anything in the world, if something is not healed, anything in the world will aggravate it, So it could be Kamala Harris campaign today. It could be the Super Bowl tomorrow. It could be whatever. So what we want to do is get to the root.
That's
And
it.
I called upon you because, I know you as somebody who deals with the root. You know what I mean? And help people, clarify things so we can move forward.
Well, the root is where our liberation is,
True.
So with anything, I think what we're feeling now is the flight of our liberation, especially as women. You know, I try to look at things as the middle ground, and you know, any group of people, or you know, anything that is seeking liberation, the pendulum must swing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I say that to say, for instance, you know, for women, you can see like over the last maybe 8 to 10 years that there's been a constant climb of liberating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had the whole movement of the divine feminine,
True.
you know, and that pendulum swung all the way to the left, which in so many cases, as we were seeking our liberation, we're finding new grounds, you know, understanding ourselves more, understanding our own roots of suffering. And so a lot of that was spilling out onto the scene, you know, and everything that we did. And sometimes we made a lot of mistakes, you know, just because when you want to roar and you want everybody to hear you, you know, you're not sure about who you're harming in the interim. You know, you just want to be heard and you want to be free.
True.
And so that pendulum, I believe, for women.
You're tuned to WRFG Atlanta 89.3 on the FM dial. We're tapped in with our sister, Mother Jaguar. We'll bring her back up in a minute. Just stay tuned to yourself. Stay tuned to yourself at all times. And we're there, so same way. We give thanks and praises. On the next hour, we'll be joined by our brother Ifagbenga Faniyi of Oshe Meji Temple in Atlanta. Also doing some very, very, very important work towards the liberation of our people. And we're going to look at carbon healing. What is that all about? You know, regardless of how you want to term it, in many different ways, this time is known as the age of Aquarius. There she is. Mother Jaguar. Yes, sir.
My apologies. The phone just keeps looping out. But yeah, I think I was mentioning, and I heard you say this is the time of Aquarius, and also we're moving in times of revolution due to Pluto.
True. True.
And so this is a revolutionary stage for a lot of us. My only wish for people is for them to find middle ground. You know, in a lot of ways, you know, we have to fight really hard to come out of this hole, but we don't want any casualties.
Right.
So we have to find a way to do things in a more balanced way. And relationship to me is actually that battleground, you know.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have someone in your life that is taking up a lot of your precious time, someone that's so intimately woven into your life and your everyday things that you do, you know, your family. And it to me, it beckons you to really sit presently with the relationship that you're in with that person, as well as for yourself. Now, I know we were told many times that, you know, the best way to get over a lover is to get up under another. And so a lot of times we don't take the time to really look into our lives and see how we struggled and what root was triggered in those relationships.
True. Yeah,
Right.
I feel you. I was told, I want to say something opposite, but I was told something from another angle that, you know, marriage, in like even in the Islamic tradition as a context, and this is the context in which I was told that is considered half the deen, half your lifestyle, because the fullness of your life is to be close, is to be one with the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to be one with the Creator, one has to be purified, like a baby, like they say. You know, all the different ancient traditions say that same thing. And nothing purifies you like marriage because of the ego and all that kind of stuff. You know, so I feel you completely. My Mother Jaguar, just based on the time, you know, I know you have to leave soon. And so I want to say publicly, I'm praying that this is just a little tease, because we need to have you back on with your wisdom to dig deeper into this.
Absolutely. This is where I want to be, because I realize that we've kind of been dancing around the topic,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then allowing our emotions to kind of flood all over everything. But
Right.
it's
And
time
we love dancing, but we don't want to dance around the topic.
That's right.
we want to dance the fire dance in the ceremony and get liberated
and celebrate. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, Mother Jack, I want to ask you this because I keep coming to these two books that Randall Robinson, who is now an ancestor, wrote. Is The Debt, What America Owes to Black, and the Reckoning, What Blacks Owe to Each Other. So I want to deal with a reckoning for a minute. You know, I think that's what Mama Nikki and Baba James Baldwin they were heading to in that conversation.
Yes.
Reckoning, what we owe each other. You know.
Yes.
And through your work, through your experience, through your life experience, through how you have engaged in terms of healing modalities, I want to ask you to kind of focus on that for the little bit of time we have. What do we owe each other?
Oh, we owe each other so much compassion and widening our perspective a little bit more about our understandings, not just, you know, projecting that out to another person, but our understanding of ourselves has been blighted, you know. And so if we don't have true understanding of ourselves, then we can't have a good understanding of another person.
True.
So what we owe each other, I think, is a lot more compassion and patience and presence. Also being able to hold each other accountable for whatever glitches that may happen when we're bouncing right back into, you know, perceived misconceptions about relationship between another person. So it really takes a lot of time to gather your wisdom, if you will, or, you know, gather your understanding about yourself and what it is that your root issues are, your root triggers are, the things that you've been hurt the most about. And so with my healing, I started off working in a direction that was very specific to anger. The anger that I held from feeling misunderstood by family members, also abused by male family members. Well, not male family members, but the male men that were around my mother. And also the betrayal I felt from the feminine in my family that didn't uphold or set boundaries when it was, you know, around children and perverted adults. You know, so I had a lot of anger and resentment that I needed to heal that was getting in the way of my own relationship with myself, my children, my husband at the time, and my mother. And so what this medicine did in such a very magical way, because it didn't really stamp everything out, it just made me aware of things in the beginning. And so I started working with a beautiful medicine called ayahuasca that the indigenous people of Brazil and Peru have been teaching and offering over the last 1,000 years. And one of the things that it started, or the thing that I felt the most that was changed in my life, was awareness, perceived awareness, and being able to be so present to my behavior that it made it easier for me to change direction, you know, before things got out of hand, or if I was projecting something from a rooted wound, if you say, you know. So it made me very aware and still and present with myself. And I noticed when I started serving this medicine, I had mostly women coming to these ceremonies, and I started questioning after a while, where are the men? You know, why aren't the men coming? And I kind of figured out along the way, after speaking with, you know, some of my male friends, is that the vulnerability that it takes to be in a ceremony like that is not really welcomed with men, because they haven't really learned how to, or have been safe enough to be vulnerable as men.
Yeah.
And allow their emotions to be right there on the surface with them for everyone else to see, and transparent. So that was also something that I wanted to change, in which I started restructuring ceremony to make them even more safer for men as well as women. But I started realizing that I need to have more of a male presence there, so other men could feel safe, you know, to be there. So I think that this medicine has really been helping a lot of us become our own teacher and then student or therapist, as you will, to really pay attention to the thing that you've been carrying over the years from an experience as a child when it directly relates to an opposite gender. So I love the fact that now, hence, 15 years later, I'm able to see like so many blossoming relationships, but not just on a intimate level as far as sexuality. I'm seeing, better relationships between friends, now it's no longer perceived that you can't be friends with a man. Women can be friends with men now. We're a lot more wise now, and also maturing emotionally to where we can see that, sex doesn't have to be a part of our mixture here. We're here to liberate each other and walk each other home.
True. That was a powerful statement when I first heard that Ramdas say, we're all here. We're just all walking each other home. I appreciate you sharing that from your experience, because, the reality is that it's difficult or maybe impossible, and I feel inappropriate in many ways to put a time stamp and a parameter on people's healing. Everybody goes through their thing. You experience what you experience, and you've expressed this with us in a brief way this afternoon in terms of even how you started out, focused on anger. You were self-aware enough to take that focus.
Yes.
So before we let you go, because I know the time, and again, family, Mother Jaguar has agreed. So this is just a taste test, all right? We keep coming back, and we're gonna deal with, we're gonna dive deep. I want to ask you to prescribe, for lack of a better word, for those of us in the world, so many of us who are not even consciously self-aware. I'm gonna say it that way. We have our tools, but we don't even know the tools we have. In terms of how we actively love. You mentioned compassion. And what does that look like in real living flesh when you're dealing with family members, a loved one, even yourself, that is going through these cleansing stages? We hear about a healing crisis or a cleansing, what do they call it? A cleansing crisis or something, like when your body, you might take a detox and your body start breaking out, all kind of stuff.
Yeah, like a health crisis.
Right. But we have not been trained how to deal with that, especially when it takes a more emotional, spiritual route. Where would you start that conversation? Just for starters.
Well, compassion, that's kind of a conundrum. Like, I know that it takes a lot of experience in life experiences, a lot of messing up, to get to a place of compassion. Compassion to me is when you have an understanding about yourself that is not based out of your trauma. It's just based out of a clear understanding of human behavior, and that sometimes people are not aware of themselves. And so a lot of the things that I would do, whenever I hit, or ran into someone that was belligerent in some way or ignorant in some way, is that I would always have to say to myself, they're not self-aware. And so if they're not self-aware, then, they have a mindset of a child. And so I would start to treat them as such, and not in a belittling way. It's just a way, if you're not self-aware, then you're also not emotionally mature. And so having that understanding and standing in that allows you to develop compassion a little bit greater. So
true.
And the next time we're on, I would love to sit down and talk about, like, have some bullet points, like what has been stirring the pot.
Right.
These so-called gender wars.
Right.
What is the perceived difference or the division that they're trying to create here?
Right.
And for what reason? So I would love to dig into that pot a little bit more when we talk again about it.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward. I remember hearing a lecture with Baba Wayne Chandler and Dr. Jewel Pookrum. And he was talking about, come on, it's slipping me right now. It's at the tip of my tongue, but he was just, it was a comical thing, but it was very much based on science, in terms of he say, she say, but not he say, she say like rumors, but in terms of, I think it's man speak, woman speak or something. But he basically was saying like he would throw out some scenarios of what a woman may say and how a man would perceive it. It's just completely like
it's true though.
Two different languages.
Yes, because sometimes women are perceiving emotionally.
Right.
Like some of the words that may be said is already, you haven't even finished your whole sentence yet, but you said something that was negatively impacting my desire and my needs. So I've already immediately started looking at, he's not listening to me, or he's not paying attention to my needs.
True. True. Well,
Yeah.
let's just stick a pin there. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know you got some very important business to handle, and we celebrate that. And so let's circle back very soon, please.
Please, yes, I'm here. Just let me know.
I'm gonna text you.
All right.
When I get off the air.
Okay. Well, y'all have a wonderful day, and thank you for bringing me on RFG. I'm sorry, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. Much love.
Much love.
That's our sister, Mother Jaguar. Yes, and we give thanks for her. We give thanks for her family, and the connection that is not just a surface connection. We have been blessed as a community. I've had the opportunity to say that time and time again for 28 years now here on WRFG. We've been blessed with a cadre of people who are committed to self-liberation, African liberation, and human liberation in general. And we start with self, of course, naturally, because if you can't love yourself, you can't love nobody else. We move to Africa because in terms of the human family, that's the root. And we understand, based on all these things that we're talking about, time and time again, that if the root is not properly serviced, the root of a tree is not properly serviced, then none of the branches, none of the beautiful branches, fruit, limbs, any of that can prosper. You see, so that's what it is. We have wholly more in store for you, so don't go nowhere. Stay tuned to yourself. I want to play something for you from our good sister. We're now going to pre-introduce, but you know the voice. Uh-oh.
Non-confined that is designed to calculate, intuiting of the essence, awareness of the presence of the whole beyond each individual part, master of the mind space, mason of the landscape, with intelligence she access from the heart. A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo. The fruit she will bear, what she has access to. The world and all perception are simply too subjective. They cannot quench the yearning for the truth. The evidence magnetic, the source is alchemic, and this knowledge must be given to the youth. So what seems to be a sacrifice to those outside the temple as they fail to overstand the path she choose is what she willingly releases as she actively connected with the forces that she learning how to use. A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo. Fruit she will bear, the power she has access to.
Observe the 4 legs on the X chromosome, the 3 legs on the Y. The 7 is the completion, nevertheless, never the Y. 2 plus 2, 2 times 2 is the same in the eye. The mitochondria squarely proves how much of the blueprint she provide. The fullness of joy in a sober overflow. Suffer say refuse in a reverse if you know. Strive say efforts in reverse also too.
A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo. The fruit she bear, the power she has access to. Them tell you you mustn't talk to yourself and keep away from selfishness. Eve brings sin to the world, so now we're punishing everyone born as a girl. This is the state of now. The minds are trained and trapped in. So make we break it down from the root of the square of the source that we tapped into. Is more than just a number. It is the first evolution of life. But what is the truth of the matter? The latter is the fruit of the movement of sign. Yes, sign. S-I-N. Mathematical manifestation of life spiraling. And the self-individual mind is what expansion of consciousness will help one to find. And womb is a function of man. We are not separate, all emanating from the same divine plan. The persecution of the feminine is the reason for the state the world is in. A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo.
So here what Javelin said.
The fruit she bears, the power she has access to.
Woman, greatest threat, status quo. But we supposed to be joining us all over the world.
Spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo. The fruit she bears,
It's love to the family and friends.
access to.
Of course, such powerful political work, cultural work, reminding us our power. Continue to remind people of duty and make people aware of things and to share information. Sometimes, it could be irresponsibly shared,
A seer of the way, a seeker of the fullness in the future of the clay. These hands are rough and purpose to create from a mind unconfined that is designed to calculate, intuiting of the essence, awareness of the presence of the whole beyond each individual part. Master of the mind space, mason of the landscape with intelligence, she access from the heart. A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo.
Mother Jaguar for passing through.
The fruit she will bear, what she has access to. The world and all perception are simply too subjective. They cannot quench the yearning for the truth. The evidence magnetic, the source is alchemic, and this knowledge must be given to the youth. So what seems to be a sacrifice to those outside the temple as they fail to overstand the path she chooses is what she willingly releases as she actively connected with the forces that she learning how to use. A spiritual woman is the greatest threat to the status quo. She will bear the power she has access to.
You're here? Much love to Atlanta, for those of you tuning in on terrestrial radio. Keeping the link, you know.
Clear that the words white and black don't mean anything. You know, a man comes home. You know, he is in a situation which he cannot control. He is a human being. It's got to come out somewhere. A poor Puerto Rican several years ago, for example, no, it's alleged. But I can see if this happened, why it happened. Cat came home and the 3-month-old baby was screaming, and you know, as babies do. And he killed it. He didn't mean to kill it. He picked it up and threw it against the wall.
Yeah, I read about
He didn't mean to kill it. It wasn't that. I understand, you know, because I've been there. I know something about that. I don't know if it happens to a woman, but it happens to a man. You cannot do anything. They got you. They got you. They got you by the throat and by the balls. And of course it comes out. It comes out where would it come out? It comes out in the person closest to you.
I was going to say that's so wrong because what you perpetuate.
Nikki, it may be wrong.
I hate to use those kind of terms.
But Nikki, it may be wrong. Of course it's wrong. But we're dealing with human beings. You know, one cannot be romantic about human nature. One cannot be romantic about one's own nature.
That's not fair. I don't think that I'm romantic. But
no, I don't mean that you are.
I have seen how the community, and even today in 1971, even today there are divisions based on those same kind of problems.
That's right.
So that the black men say, in order for me to be a man, you walk 10 paces behind me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
it means nothing. I can walk 10 paces behind a dog. It means nothing to me. But if that's what he needs, I'll never get far enough behind him for him to be a man. You know what I mean?
Look,
I'll never walk that slowly.
Look, Nikki, if at the risk of, at the very great risk of seeming to pull rank.
No.
You know.
Pull rank. You know.
I'm not.
Come
really,
on.
I'm not. No. But no, I don't mean that. But
no.
What I do mean is that a great many things which seem, if I may say so, new to you are not new to me.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can say then, okay, I see what the cat's doing. I know how long, I can tell you almost exactly how long he will do it. You know, I know that a great deal of what passes for black militancy right now is nothing but a fashion. You know,
at best.
You know, at best. Something will rest, something will remain. What is important about it is not the details, not the given, you know, people, you know, or the given so-called leaders or any of that jazz, you know. What is important is the impulse out of which it has come, the ferment out of which it has come, which it reveals too. And what's valuable in it will remain, and the rest will go.
Yeah, but what's...
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but again, what's sort of sad to me is that the same syndrome that, say, our fathers set up, coming from many, you know what I mean? My father is your age. And the same syndromes that they set up, well, you know, he's a little bit older, 55. But the same...
A little bit older, 55. Thank you, baby.
Well, 7 years older. The same syndromes, which is being set up, is being perpetuated, is that once again, the black man is becoming the figure to slide away from. You know what I mean? That once again, the black man is the figure that you say, well, I can't handle that. And if you visit with the states, or, you know, you talk to people enough, you'll see that same syndrome, you know, the little guys that are standing around crossing their arms, and they're not lovable. They're not giving any love. They could give a damn about me. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate because I need love.
Yes, but sweetheart, what you're saying is very, very serious. I'm not in the least denying it, because you're perfectly right. But the only way we can get through it, I think, and it's demanding a great deal of you, but one's got no choice but to demand a great deal of you, is that you understand. Look, let us say let us say I'm King Oliver.
All right.
Right? And I'm a pretty good musician.
A very good musician.
Mm-hmm. And somebody called, let us say, Bing Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who couldn't carry a tune from here to here, right?
White Christmas.
Right?
It's true.
Now I watch this little white boy become a millionaire. Become a millionaire. Many times over. I can't get a job. You know, and time goes on. You get older. You get more weary. And since you cannot get a job, your morale begins to be destroyed. And the body begins to fail you. Your death approaches. All because being a man, you've never been able to execute what a man ought to be able to do. And this is not anything that you have done or not done by some arbitrary sentence. How in the world, if I can't get a job, if I can't even get my axe out of the pawn shop, if I can't even get money to get on the subway, how am I going to love anybody except in such an awful pain and rage that nobody could bear it? I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to make you see it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
I do, but because maybe I'm hopeful, or because I've structured my life in a way that I won't.
I don't, by the way, think that what I'm describing is any longer true for your generation. I don't mean that.
But I see the same, what I keep saying is that I see the same syndromes in the same guys that I have to deal with now.
Yes, but my dear, what you have to see is also, you got to, look, think about the kid. Think about the kid. You know, what you're going through is one thing, and I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm not trying to minimize it.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
I'm not trying to, I don't even mean you personally.
Yeah, I know, the generation is not.
Yes, I don't mean you, Nikki, exactly.
No, I hope that nobody, I'm not talking about me that much.
I know. But what I do mean is that simply assume for the moment, the kid is a useful metaphor because it carries you past one moment.
Into the next.
Into another moment. Because no matter what happens to me or to you, one's responsibility is somewhere else. So it's a terrible Tuesday and a wretched Friday. But, you still, the kid don't know that. And then you begin to see that what looked so awful on Wednesday or on Friday, or is awful, but it's not eternal. You can get through it.
Hopefully.
And when you get through it, you can understand it.
Okay. We're not like in disagreement. What I'm trying to maybe get you to relate to is that, and I lay it on black men because I'm a black woman.
You have every right to.
I'm sure it's that arbitrary.
No, you have every right to.
But a guy, let's say a guy's going with girl.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going with Maybelle. And Maybelle gets pregnant. All of a sudden, you can't speak to Maybelle because you don't have the money for a crib, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She doesn't need a crib. The baby's going to sleep someplace. If you can follow me for 2 seconds, wait. Baby's going to sleep someplace. The baby's going to eat something. But what she needs at that moment is a man. Mm-hmm. And in order, if the man functions as a man,
mm-hmm.
which is not necessarily a provider for all that stuff, because mm-hmm. everybody can understand why you can't buy something. You don't have a job. You didn't have a job when you're always going to bed. Mm-hmm. Why are you going to get a job because she got pregnant? You understand? There's no job. But what she needs as a man to come by and say, hey, baby, you look good. And black men refuse to function like that because they say, I want to bring the crib when I come. Baby, you're never going to get the crib.
Baby.
Bring yourself.
Baby, I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, But let me tell you this, you may be absolutely right, and you are right from your point of view.
It's arbitrary.
But you have to understand my point of view.
I'm trying.
And from my point of view, well, if you were pregnant, I would act very differently. That's but that's me. That's something else. But from the man's point of view, given the fact, as we said much earlier, that the standards of the civilization into which you were born are first outside of you. And by the time you get to be a man, they're inside of you. And this is not susceptible to any kind of judgment. It's a fact. If you're treated a certain way, you become a certain kind of person. If certain things describe you as being real, they're real for you, whether they're real or not. And in this civilization, a man who cannot support his wife and his child is not a man. And this is also for example, in the welfare rules.
Yeah.
The black man has always been treated as a slave, and of course he reacts that way, one way or another. And you can blame him on a human level if you like, but I think it's more interesting you have to understand it. The bag the cat is in.
But it's so
because how can I? I'm not being rational. And I may love you, especially if I love you. How in the world I can't come with nothing.
But it's not,
I know it doesn't make any sense, Nikki, but a man is built like that.
You see, when we talk about the children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we talk about, like, let's say my little boy, your nephew, something like that. We talk about how are we going to create the new child in the same old syndrome? Well, somebody has to fake it enough. You understand? Somebody has to say, hell no, I can't buy you a bicycle. You don't need one. Yeah. And smile about it so the kid can say, I'm not afraid of daddy.
But sometimes that happens, and after all.
But not enough to talk, when we talk about the group.
Yeah, but wait.
We're talking about the group.
Hold the phone, baby. It has begun. Something has begun. The fact that we're talking about it is a beginning.
It's very important.
It's very important indeed. Look, I've had to learn in my own life, I want this. I want it Friday. And Friday comes and I've worked my behind off to get something done that don't come. It doesn't come for 20 years. Then you use that 20 years. Look, life is a very short and very long time. It is, really it is, And it's very important not to get hung up on any given detail, because what is there, like the fact that you're a woman and the fact that I'm a man, that's going to be there forever, and we're going to have to deal with that forever.
From the beginning, sure.
And we have to deal with it from day to day, because if we love each other, we both know it. The tragedy is we both know it, and the greater tragedy is that it's destroyed by things which have nothing to do with you and nothing to do with me. A man is built as he's built, and there's nothing one can do about that. A man is not a woman.
That's true.
And whether he's wrong or right, look, if we're living in the same house, and you're my wife or my woman, I had to be responsible for that house. And I'm not allowed to be responsible for that house. I'm no longer in my own eyes. Doesn't make any difference what you may think of me. In my own eyes,
that's fair.
I'm not a man.
You see what I mean? It does indeed make a difference what I think about it, because I could be perfectly willing, and as a matter of fact, I am perfectly willing to concede that, first of all, a man is a natural aggressor. You know what I mean? I don't care if I walked up to you and said, let's go to bed. You are the aggressor in that situation, because it all depends on you. I could fool myself. I could fool my friends. Like, yeah, I got him. It depended on you. You see? So I'm never confused on that level.
Yeah,
but I've seen so many people get so hung up in such crappy, superficial kind of things that for lack of being able to bring a steak in the house, they won't come. I can get my own damn steak.
Nikki,
I need you.
Nikki,
and that's what the black, no, really, I mean, that's to me what the black man.
But Nikki, you're perfectly right. But you're being, but you're being perfectly rational.
But it's a rational situation.
Yeah, but love is not a rational situation.
Love must be. It must be rational. Because this irrationality that we have does not work. It destroys people.
I quite agree with you, but this is something we have to confront. When I was 22, I was about to get married. And for several reasons, I threw my wedding rings in the river, and that was when I split.
WRFG Atlanta 89.3 in the FM dial. You're getting this good. Just stay tuned to yourself. We're tuning in to ourselves on our station for progressive information and handpicked quality music. Got some very important announcements to take and to play, and we'll be forward. And in a moment, we'll be joined by another special guest as we continue the liberation journey. It's all about the liberation journey, you know. Our Jegna, Dr. John Henry Clark, reminded us, instructed us, as a matter of fact, that if it's not in the cause of African liberation, then we should throw it in the dustbin of history. And we accept that charge 100%. Stay tuned to yourself.
Manga African Dance, in collaboration with WRFG Atlanta, presents Atlanta Youth Rites of Passage Festival, December 13th through 14th. On Friday, December 13th, Manga Dance will present a dance class from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Little Five Points Community Center, located at 1083 Austin Ave Northeast. On Saturday, December 14th, multiple activities will take place at City Dance and Music, located at 524 Plasters Ave, Atlanta, Georgia, 30324. Crafts are from 1 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. Drum classes are from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and a concert will begin at 5 p.m. On Sunday, December 15th, Manga returns to the Little Five Points Community Center, located at 1083 Austin Ave Northeast, where there will be songs, plays, and storytelling, which will begin at noon and end at 3:30 p.m. For more information, the website wrfg.org. This has been another public service announcement brought to you by WRFG 89.3 FM, your station for progressive information and hand-picked quality music.
Did you know that the Fulton County Department of Community Development and Metro Fair Housing Services are offering residents of College Park, East Point, Fairburn, Hapeville, Palmetto, Union City, and South Fulton landlord, tenant, and fair housing counseling? For what? Get help with repairs, dispute resolutions, referrals for evictions, and more.
And housing discrimination?
If you are denied a mortgage loan due to maternity leave or disability income, or denied a rental because you have children or an emotional support animal, or being harassed by your landlord with indecent advances in exchange for rent, for more information, Metro's hotline at 404-524-0000 today for help.
This has been another public service announcement brought to you by your listener-sponsored and supported community radio, 89.3 FM, WRFG.org. Your station for progressive information and hand-picked quality music.
Negro man, come away from the city of sand, for the road and the river just keep rolling. Oh, that river just keep rolling all along. We got along. Yes, the road and the river just keep rolling. Oh, that river just keep rolling all along. scared of trying, scared of laughing, scared of sighing. Old man river, just keep rolling along, yeah, along. Say to keep on rolling, go old man river. Yes, old man river. Yes, old man river. Keep on rolling down, rolling down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Negro man, come away from the Mississippi. A Negro man, I come away from the sinking sand. A Negro man, I come away from the Mississippi. A Negro man, I come away from the sinking sand. For the road, just rolling. Oh, man, river, just keep rolling along, rolling along. Oh, man, river, just keep rolling along. Yeah, rolling along. Oh, yeah, oh, it's your man. Come my way, I ran away, I found
down, build them humble, them can't take for us now. Cypher as the voice to bring the earth falling down. If we carry the space, it's different from the days of old. These generations of vipers are moving out of control. From the leader, we have to take where we serve. Yeah, we see happen on them loose argument. Rasta serious, and we now take no check with box. Why, man, we stepping on your chest. Here, Rasta for and give progress. Stop from living your life in a mess. And Rasta is the highest. Cypher Alliance is the best. As a soldier, we are free defend we own. We never find a camera run, but get on patrol because my chorus. Him and wait on them soul. Rasta is the half that has never been told. From the burning of the bridge to the rising of the sun. Who is there to compare? There is none. The moment of truth is gone. From the leader, we have to take where we serve. Yeah, we happen on the loose argument. Rasta serious, and we now take no check with box. Why, man, we stepping on your chest. Here, Rasta for and give progress. Stop from living your life in a mess. And Rasta is the highest. Cypher Alliance is the best. As a soldier, we are free defend we own. We never find a camera run, but get top control because we're chorus. We are connected. Rasta is the half that has never been told. From the burning of the bridge to the rising of the sun. Who is there to compare? There is none. The moment of truth is gone. From the leader, we have to take where we serve. Yeah, we see Africa that lose our
to the brain. In other words, it acts as a chlorophyllin carrier. It takes energy, reacts to it, and processes its own information to its nearby cells. That's why you can get, again, those beautiful moves of the Michael Jordans, those cuts and so by the football players, and those immediate reactions, because you can't stop and think. They have to train people without melanin or with little melanin to react. People with melanin react anyway because it's like what they showed on the Black Buddhas. You have eyes everywhere. You are totally conscious, and you don't wait for brain processing, which slows it down. We'll prove this to you in the classes because you can inflict pain, and if you have your mind off somewhere, it'll take sometimes up to 15 seconds before you feel the pain. And you can even delay that longer if you're trying to offset pain by merely mind control. They don't teach you, though, with melanin, you can make that instantaneous reaction, or you can delay it up to 30 seconds, or you cannot even get to feel it at all by simply using certain ways with melanin and ingesting certain foods and herbals. Melanin is a gift from the gods. With melanin, you can speed up your healing process in half. And if you really get into a strong magnetic field, nothing to do with the electricity, which hurts you in the main, you can be even cut that into a third. You can see into the body without using anode-cathode ray bombardments, if you have melanin, by using magnetic fields. One of my favorite people coming in there again, Brother Lilly. Brother William Lilly, hello there. Gotta say hi to you. This is a man who has helped me a great deal when I've come in here to New York. First time he's attended one of my lectures. I'm very happy about that. Once you begin to use this kind of energy in this fashion again, per se, you can speed up everything that your body does and everything that your brain does. You can even speed up the kind of energy and frequencies that normally you're attuned to that come in to your body and into your brain. This makes you a god. What is a god? I'm not going to go into all of that because that's a long thing, but any race of people or any individual that begins to do the super normal that everyone else is not usually able to do is looked upon as a wondrous avatar or person. People want to worship people. You shouldn't worship any person, really. No person should be worshiped. No person should be envied. Respected, studied, watched, emulated if what they're doing is good. That's as far as it takes, because you too are gods. How do I know it? You have melanin. All the history of the gods that came from various places, advanced scientists, advanced races of all description, from lizard-looking creatures to snake-looking creatures, from little short ones to very tall ones, 30 feet tall. The bones are still on our earth to prove that they did live here at one time in physical form. All were amazed at the most advanced people in our galaxy, what they had done with a certain issue of people here by giving them melanin, the gift of the gods. That's why you're being buzzed now with all kind of UFOs. I know Bobby Hibbert talking about the mothership and so, but they got motherships of all descriptions around here, good and bad. Some you don't want to get near. Some even want to get within 50 miles of them, if you can avoid it. And others, you want to run and embrace, and if they weren't around, you'd have been annihilated a long time ago. But we'll see about that. We're talking, break it down in our classes. Government's well aware, well aware. In fact, they've even built about 33 of them themselves, and I don't know how long, because that was last year, as they are now trying to get into photon drive and so. But your gift is that at the highest degree of the cultivation of melanin throughout the pigments of the cells, endodermal, ectodermal, bloodstream, and so each of those glands is then able to reach its highest vibration and loose what is called the astral body. The real mothership. As I said before in one of my lectures, and I had to do this because the brother kind of introduced it on a level that is way out esoterically, and he's right. They say all but one thing I agree with him on. So I have to now kind of change what I was going to present and back into the actual melanin wars to tie in with what he has started. When the melanin in a form of high energy yield throughout the body vibrates, every cell in every organ vibrates faster. Since melanin is also in the brain vibrates faster. And the frequencies that it can reach are astounding. There are the frequencies that let you seem to be out of your body looking down on it that they all talk about. There are the frequencies that let you sense when something's going to happen to one of your loved ones before it happens, and if it's happening, almost go crazy because you know it's happening even though you're not there. It beats any switch on E80TT, Northern Telecom, or Bell Atlantic. It is your instantaneous form of communication. It is a thing that messes up your cable TV when you pass by it. It is a thing that sometimes when you get excited, again, begins to interfere with your TV patterns. And it's a thing that we just don't utilize enough. Why? Because who was going to teach it? The teachers were killed when they brought us out of Mother Africa. The teachers were killed when they attempted to do it here. And even under the Masonic Guild and the ancient ones who tried to at least serve the gods by helping the children of the gods knew who they were killed and tortured as worse as you were because they didn't want you to know who you were. They wanted to steal the planet, imprison you, and take what the gods had left. Again, I'm talking about gods, advanced scientists from many worlds watching a special project here on this planet Tierra, Shan, Sanche, all names for this little place. Melanin, when operating well, causes the pituitary gland to release hormones that they haven't even cataloged. They can't because they have no way to measure the hormonal things, because they're instantaneously then and they're gone. But when they're there, they give you flashes of the cosmic universe. Intuitive flashes in full color of who you have been and what you can be. The same flashes that when you depart this body and your life passes before you, that you go through again. But did they ever teach you that you don't have to die to bring that about? That cosmic wisdom of knowing everything that your ancestors knew is yours every night when you go to sleep, and between 11 and 2:30 when the melanin glands are working at its best. But you must have total darkness. That's why they give you the TVs that never go out. Last night, I was in a hotel room. My wife would tell you this. She woke up because something awakened her, and there was a beam of light on the back of my head. And she said, "What in the heck is that?" And she awakened me gently and went and covered the cable receiver, which was actually obviously not a receiver, but a cylinder on the back of my daggone head. I didn't even know what hotel room I thought I was going to myself. So it's by accident that this goes to the back of my head. What was it doing with my occipital lobe where my psychic equipment is? And by now you should know I am a psychic. Okay, I do channel. But I thought I was under my own control. What the heck was messing with me then? The same thing that messes with all of us all the time when we begin to come into consciousness as to who we are and begin to not talk about it, but do it. Melanin, then, is a gift that separates you from anybody that doesn't have it. People say that black people are ugly. People say that people with melanin are really not desirable, and they're so on and so forth. Isn't that an interesting photograph? You can't see it from there, some of you, but it shows a very pale woman and a very dark woman. It's the same woman with artificial melanin and in a natural state. And the caption says, "Stay beautiful year round." Keep your melanin with you wherever you go. Be more desirable and wanted. Fulfill your wildest dreams. Wear the colors that you only dreamed of previously. But everybody hates dark people, right? The gods loved you previously pale people by giving you permanent glands and melanin capability because it understood that the planetary frequency was going to be changed by those who don't like you and wanted to see another race of their own prosper on your planet. And they beat off your overseers because it would have been total bloodshed in the cosmic universe and in this solar system to have fought them longer. And say, let them have their sway for a season. They changed a beautiful, oxygenated, and I heard what the brother said, magnetic field into an ozone-infested electromagnetic field and cut down the frequencies and then cut off your 12 basic strands of DNA and limited you to 2. And then later on even saw that that one was halved into 2 helixes. This only means this: if you understand anything about computers, anything at all about lines that carry power, if you've got 12 lines of cable bringing a current from one source to wherever you want it, and you've got one cable, one line, bringing you a current from wherever you want to you, which do you think would be more powerful? Should be more powerful if they're both of equal value. The 12. Well, you had 12 lines throughout your body bringing you 12 kinds of energy which you could utilize. And they messed with 11 of them. cut them, and they're now what they call junk DNA. There is no such thing as junk DNA. Go back and tell your professors I told them that, and they lie. Or they're ignorant and they shouldn't be professors teaching genetics. Junk DNA are those strands that were cut, and when they weave back together again, and they're going to, you will have the power potential of 50 gods, 50 supermen, 50 atlases, and Schwarzeneggers and anything else that you want to have, because the physical body will then follow the astral, etheric, mental, causal, higher forms of energy. And all your dreams will become answered. Don't think that anybody's going to let that happen if they can stop you. And they're going to try to stop you with every means known to this planet. It is a war on. The only thing is, you only realize that there were battles. You didn't know you were in a war for this very planet. But many of you now are coming into that consciousness, as you should and must. The best from Kemet, Aikubu land, is here in the United States. Survivors of those DNAs, even though you see they killed your ancestors, they couldn't kill the DNA strand that produces those kind of beings. That's why killing is such a stupid, wasteless thing. Because all you do is to transform that energy into a higher form that will be able to withstand the thing that took out its ancestor, and ancestral rights go on. That's what they were trying to tell you when they said study your ancestors, because you are your ancestors. Did you hear me? You don't have to pray to your ancestors. Look at yourself. Every molecule, every DNA, everything that ever was in melanin is never forgotten and transplants itself into another body with the same memory that was locked in the first one. You just have to get the key to know who it is. That's why they don't like to take you into regressions, because all of that comes back. It still comes back sometimes with the drugs, and that's what the people who take the drugs don't understand. They get flashes of greatness without being able to maintain it, and then since they haven't raised their vibrational rate, the whole thing wears out, and you age overnight, forget what you did know even in this incarnation, become stupid and rancid, and go around helping to have other people with less possible intelligence take care of you. That stupidity has got to stop. The potential, when you can bring those strands back together, is to do everything that the best computer, PC or mainframe, hardware or software can do, and do it 9 times better and quicker, and even have the machines fearing you as they used to. That's what the whole concept of machine Manitou that the Algonquins who used to populate your area here were afraid of. They're teaching you now of virtual reality. Virtual reality is your consciousness in just half awakened state being used, where whatever you can imagine, you can bring about. That is past the virtual reality. When your melanin is functioning correctly, you can bilocate by being in consciousness one place while being in your body in another. Some people call that state now death. That is real life. That's why they used to have guardians for the body, watchers, and all kind of other terms that some of you from Louisiana, from Mississippi, from the old country, and with the teachings of the god Valdal knew about. And that's what you used to run to those people, to bilocate and tell you what was happening and to influence your enemies. And you know your grandmothers and grandfathers talked about it, and some of you may even practice it now. But practice it in the light, in the full capacity. It is a gift from the gods. You earned it. When you don't do the drugs, and I do a lecture called Drugs and the Astral. If ever you want to get a dope head off of his drugs. Teach a person with melanin who still knows that he has a soul and a spirit, and she has a soul and a spirit, that they actually can ground their soul on hell. That's the other term for earth when the non-melanin carriers came. And have to go through this 9 lifetimes to get it straight again. And if they don't believe that, ask them, what do you think they're doing with their life now when they themselves know down deep that the days are passing by and they're going nowhere except into a total extermination of their physical body.
He can push the tempest by.
A man called Johnny Osborne on the Ancestral Rock. We're listening to the voice of Dr. Delbert Blair. A preview called Melanin Wars.
Nightingale, wrong, I put it and all he has, man and man, is that we give each other love. Oh, ye man, of the little things I say, get down on your knees and start to pray, so the children can have a better place to play, and your reward be very great. Oh, he can surely turn the tide. He can push the tempest by. It's he who gave the raw the red bread. He gave the nightingale a song, and all he has of men and men and men and men is that we give each other love. Is that we give each other love. Surely turn the tide.
Created and also, and they look upon you as gods. Gods who don't know who they are. Inasmuch as melanin works on every part of the body and is in every cell of your body, now when the energy fields of Earth change, it will begin to vibrate faster and every part of you will begin to quicken in what it's capable of doing. The test of any kind, the inoculations using basic low vibrations, food that does not have energy stored within it cannot work well for you now because you are in the process of change. I told you in a previous lecture, everybody in here this summer will get one shade darker than they are, whether you go out in the sun or not, because the light will be entering into you. The energy will come in whether you close windows or doors or not. And for those who are not used to it, it is absolutely carcinogenic, leukemic death that they're asking to go out in the sun this summer. But as the melanin is stepped up, if you must go out in it, you can survive. The point is, again, it will begin to make your head feel as though it was almost wavering. And until you balance out that melanin and get the higher frequencies going, all it will do in some cases is to give headaches. Other cases to make you want to cover the head, but at night when you sleep, each night having been exposed to that, the melanin will go through a metamorphosis and you will wake up with more insight as to who you are, and certain psychic abilities will begin to form within 48 hours after that exposure. If you adapt to it, the next time out, more happens. And then the DNA and the cells will begin to come together, just like a magnet, because magnetism is what it will awaken in your body. And then they'll begin to entwine the strands little by little up to the year 1997, when all melanin carriers are supposed to have 10 of their strands back together. Then you will see the difference in having melanin and not having melanin. But time is something that you can control. You can make 1997, 1996. You can make 1996, 1995, if you're willing to put the discipline necessary to bring it about. I don't even know if it's good to bring it about at this time. I don't know, because it means your loved ones will think you're crazy. People will begin to fear you when things begin to move, or TVs begin to go off, or lights begin to flicker when you pass the top of your head near it, or you wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep because visions and colors are coming to you, or you see objects in the room and you may scream, and they'll say, my God, get rid of this food, what has happened here? They will. Your own best friend laying next to you might put a hurt on you. You know, at the job, if suddenly when you're doing this, you suddenly say, who's that over there? Nobody sees anybody. Oh yeah, human resources, if it gets that far, you know what I'm saying to you. You've already had to hide many of these tendencies, which are already happening. If you're into the wuxi herb, I'm not talking about the bad stuff now, I'm talking about the natural herbals. Very heavy into those things again, you know what I'm talking about. That is that thing that these dope heads don't understand. They know they lost something, they know it puts them in a different vibrational rate, but they don't understand you can't mix it with drugs and expect it to work. You've got to discipline, and at night, between that 11 o'clock, even with your time zone change here, I guess it would still be for you about 10 o'clock and 3. That's when the melanin and the melatonin and the melanocytes vibrate through the pineal gland and go throughout your body. That's when you're supposed to have absolute darkness into your meditation. And as I stated before, never go to sleep without meditating about what you want to happen to you. Don't leave all that equipment on recording and you don't give it direction. You don't, somebody else will. Use your equipment or your equipment will use you. It's gonna work. Let's hope that you are the one that make it work. Somebody's in your house robbing you, you don't aid them. You turn on the alarm system and work your apparatus for defense. Am I wrong in saying this? I mean, is there something I'm saying that doesn't make sense? Whether you believe it or not, at least look at the possible logic for this. Because you haven't known before who you were, but thought you were that you ought to be, you have been hated by those who weren't. I don't need to go back over there again, do I? No, I don't, because you heard it. You just want to feel good again. For too long, people have been making you feel good so that you never work at staying good, and you may be gooder than they thought or not as good as they thought, and you're living again on the rhetoric of it. I want you to begin to work at it. I want to inspire you, but I want you to work. Like I must work, and everyone must work, because it's not going to just be handed over to you again. If you're not ready for it, it's just like giving a loaded gun to a 3-year-old. Enough strength to pull the trigger and not enough strength to know any of the repercussions once it's done. The government of
Dr. Delbert Blair is with the Goon. He's an ascended master. He's given so much to us to reflect upon. Off our video called Melanin Wars on YouTube, Dr. Delbert Blair.
Oh yeah, you have the rock and comedian. Oh yeah, you have the rock and comedian. Forward super mixing live and direct. And these are something that I never expect. And through some baby now some new respect. When I was moving up and this day them say, oh yeah. They say me glad you come on, young Lord. Them say me glad you come on, young boy. Them say me glad you come in, young boy.
Yes, sir. It's a love song to my people, no? For all of you tuning in, those of y'all joining us on the World Wide Web, I see you. On YouTube, on Facebook, on 89.3 WRFG, on WRFG.org, 1212. And we say much respect to our super duper.
You have the rock and me. I couldn't stand up if I even want. The kind of music when the DJ a chant, you say, oh yeah. You have the rock and me. Oh yeah. You have the rock and me. Forward super mixing live and direct. And these are something that I never expect. And through some baby now some true respect. When I was moving up and this day they say, oh yeah. They say me glad you come on, young Lord. They say me glad you come on, young boy. They say me glad you come in, young boy. You come be nice up to see. Oh yeah, and it's the right now, yeah. So come here, data, them around with the rhythm. I feel to dance and I feel to sing. And them say, oh yeah, me glad you come on, young Lord. They say me glad you come on. And if you come, we come all up wall. You better stay up and you watch football. And me say, Lord, they say rock and come in, young boy. They say me rock and come in.
We're glad you came in. We're glad you joined us this afternoon. We thank you for joining us and staying tuned to yourself. Share the link and make the vibes travel all over the world, you know. We plant the seed upon the many waters, the seed of life, the breath of life, the living word, y'all. Johnny Osborne on the case, rock and come in. By the grace of the Almighty, we'll be here next strong, same time, same place. Much love to Mother Jaguar who joined us. Much love to our brother Ifagbenga who couldn't make it. But they in the flesh, in the spirit, same way. Of course, the festival is taking place this strong in Ose Meji Ifa Festival.
You come in, I'm in a corner and I want to dance. I say that I just a jump and prance and I say, oh yeah, you better rock and come in, young boy. You have the rock and come in. I couldn't stand up if I even want. When they sound already DJ and chanting, say, oh yeah, you have the rock and come in, young boy. You have the rock and come in. Forward, super mixing live and direct. This is something that I never expected. Say, oh yeah.
Hey, you juvenile, where are you waiting for? They say,
rock and come on,
oh, I know. Hey, I said the love is juvenile, traveling, moving to jasmine night. Traveling, juvenile, traveling, moving to jasmine night. They keep traveling, traveling. moving the traveling back. Traveling, moving the traveling back. No shirt on their back,
No shoes on their feet.
still I know Jaguar guide and keep. They say they climb any mountain, silver grass, and the ocean to reach. Reaching a holy Mount Zion, giving the Zion we can go. Moving to the night, traveling, moving to Jazzin. I saw the love in the traveling, moving to Jazzin. They say, Santiago, 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 Santiago. Oh, 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 oh.
Zion we are going.